Hi everyone, I'm Robert Moody. I am the principal conductor of the Memphis Symphony Orchestra, and I'm here talking to you about our opening Classic Accents concert for this 16-17 season. Classic Accents, if you haven't been to one before, they are concerts that we hold over at GPAC in Germantown, and it's a Sunday afternoon concert. It's a chance to hear sometimes a slightly smaller number of people on stage perform works that you might not get to hear from a standard full orchestra concert. There will be a level always of very familiar works, but I'm going to try to make sure that we take you out of the box from time to time as well. As we talk about this opening Classic Accents concert, I think you'll see what I mean. We're going to open the concert with the Dvorak Serenade for wind instruments. Actually, it's a serenade for wind instruments plus 2 string instruments. A cello and a bass are also involved with this incredible work. Antonín Dvorak, very important composer, even in American history, but Antonín Dvorak came from what is now the Czech Republic. He was a key composer, maybe the most famous composer ever to come from Prague and from the Czech Republic. And this piece he premiered in 1878 in Prague. He actually conducted the work himself. And the work was to be evocative of a Rococo style. Rococo was the very end of the Baroque era, moving into the classical era. If you think about Rococo and art, it's when you see frescoes on cathedral ceilings that are full of gold filigree and cherubs reaching down to earth from heaven. This kind of intense sort of multi-gold leafed feeling was the way that visual art expressed in Rococo. In music, quite the same thing happens. So instead of one just playing a sort of straightforward melody, there's much fluctuation and flourishment around that melody. So you hear that, but also you hear a very Slavonic feeling about the piece as well, because Dvorak was from the Czech Republic and from that Slavonian feel. I said he was important to America because Dvorak came to America in the late 1890s. He spent 3 years teaching at what was later to become the Juilliard School of Music. And when he left the United States, he gave a most important lecture to young American composers. He said this to them. He said, "You are not succeeding because you continue to reach into the European soil to find your inspiration. Stop reaching into the European soil. Dig into your own soil." He was saying, stop trying to copy Brahms and Beethoven and Tchaikovsky and, well, me, Dvorak, and instead look to music and rhythm of America. Composers began doing that. They began to explore Native American rhythms and chants, African American spirituals, and this kind of music began to move us forward into what we now know as American music. There was no composer more associated with this movement and this beginning of American music than Aaron Copland. And so after Dvorak, we play for you Aaron Copland's original orchestration of Appalachian Spring. Aaron Copland wrote Appalachian Spring in 1944. He wrote this for a small ensemble, 13 instruments. I think you can understand why. The Second World War was at its height, and most musicians were off fighting on the front. So he wrote this for a smaller ensemble, 13 instruments. He actually wrote this piece for Martha Graham, the beloved and very, very famous dancer and most importantly, choreographer. He called the piece Ballet for Martha. He said he wanted to have an experiment in simplicity. So he found what he felt to be one of the most simple American tunes. The tune was Simple Gifts, an old Shaker hymn melody. And then he just played with this melody throughout various incarnations of the harmonic structure, basically the intervals, something being a fourth apart or a fifth apart. This feeling in Aaron Copland lends itself very well to this sense of American hymnody and therefore American music. It took on the name Appalachian Spring only in the weeks before its premiere. Martha Graham was actually reading a poem by Hart Crane, and in the poem, just one line, she saw the words, "Oh, Appalachian Spring." And she said, that's what I'm going to call this, and I will make this entire choreography about a farmhouse celebration somewhere in Appalachia in the springtime. So it's interesting that people would talk to Aaron Copland and say, you wrote this piece and you just captured the feeling of the Appalachian Mountains, and no one could ever capture it more perfectly. And he said he would chuckle and think, well, I wasn't thinking about that at all, but I thank you for the comment. The final piece in the concert is by a living American composer, and this is a piece that is very much in the out-of-the-box category. I also find this piece to be one of the most important pieces, I think, that has been written in the past few decades. Brett William Dietz is a professor of percussion and composition at LSU down in Baton Rouge. He is now in his early 40s. When he was 28 years old and he thought that he was in perfect health, out of the blue one morning he suffered a major stroke. From this experience, he went through several weeks in ICU, followed by several months of rehab. It took him a full 2 years to almost fully recover. Thank God he recovered very well and is living and thriving today. But as you can imagine, this was the most scary of experiences that a human being could face. And to be so young and to not believe that there was anything wrong with you physically, it did a number on him. He kept a journal near the end of the experience when he was finally able to write again. And at the time of him really coming back to sanity and finding recovery, he was wondering if he should do something with these journals. And he thought, well, I'm a composer, and I will turn this into a work. He created what he calls an opera introspective. It's a piece for a very small musical ensemble, just a small number of instrumentalists, one baritone, and also a screen above the ensemble with a presentation of everything from his MRIs, his brain scans, you can see the X-ray there on the screen, to images of him learning to write again. If you come to the concert, you'll see that his therapist would ask him to write the numbers 1 to 10. And he would write in fractions, although he thought he was writing 1 to 10. They would ask him to recite the alphabet, and his brain would be thinking A, B, C, D, E, and so on, but he would instead say A, E minus F to the B plus Z minus, and so on. It's amazing to understand this journey of the brain from the explosion of the stroke through its figuring out how to rewire itself and come back to sanity. And that's what the piece is about. For anyone who has suffered and recovered from a stroke, for anyone who has a family member, someone they love who has experienced and dealt with a brain injury or a stroke, for anyone in the medical profession, this is a piece not to miss. I have done this work several times. I was able to do the second performance of the work with the Detroit Symphony a number of years ago. And I can tell you that each time I have led this work, people have remained in the audience for minutes and minutes after the piece ended, really just not able to move as they think about how finally art has helped capture what they felt when they experienced this traumatic type of brain injury. It's an incredibly powerful work, and as you can tell, with a power that goes much beyond art for art's sake. I hope you won't miss this concert at GPAC. Copeland, Dvorak, Dietz, Head Case is the piece. See you there.